this series began a few months ago, and I believe the title came from, I was rereading a novel that I hadn't read for a long time called Venus and Fur. And I like the idea of the name because Venus, you know, goddess of love, goes back to that. And in the novel, there's somebody wearing fur. But as I was reading the novel when I started the series, and I'm doing, because of the layering and the back and forth with this series, I'm getting quite sculptural because I'm working paper on canvas on wood and going back in and out of it, and it started to look like skin. So the idea for the title was Love in Skin. I guess that's what the meaning really is. So that's, my work came from, as much of my work does, it draws from all the input in my life, because we are artists every minute of the day, and what we read, listen to affects our creativity if you're open to it. So I'm generally stimulated by an idea I have, and then I paint it out. So this series was multi-layered, kind of like skin.
Now, when did you start working with paper and canvas? Because in the last show, for example, I saw you didn't have paper on canvas. Was on
This
canvas.
is new.
Oh.
I've toyed with the idea of using paper for a while because I like the way it absorbs the oil paint and it gets quite matte, and I also like to carve into it. So you can't really carve into board or canvas the way that you can work back into paper. So working on this series, I would rip pieces out, I would cut pieces out because I wanted to reveal the canvas that was underneath the paper, and sometimes I go right down to the board, so there's a little more depth. It was a process that I wanted to engage in to do this, and many layers.
So to come up with the first piece, for example, with paper and canvas, it took you too long, long time because of practice?
It did, actually. The first in this series is the one behind me. And when I was in LA almost 3 years ago, just before lockdown, I went to the Broad and I saw one of my favorite artists. And he works on paper on canvas to so many layers that it's 6-8 inches thick.
Oh.
And I'd all thought of it before, but I really enjoyed the work and I liked the idea of the depth that he'd gotten. So when I came home, I mounted my first piece. I had raw canvas and I put the paper on it and thought I'd failed because it got all wrinkly. So I thought that I would put it on the board and straighten it out, which didn't work. And then I fell in love with what it left for me there, that the shapes that I found in the paper that I couldn't get straight, and so I started seeing that as a pathway to follow with my painting.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first one. It took me the longest because initially I thought I'd failed in my experiment, but then I fell in love with it. So I kept working. It took me quite a while to do the first one. So you can see by the ridges the depth in this painting. The paper's random. Like I pasted on there and layered it and came back over it, but you can see where the paper joins, and I'd emphasize that. So it's what I found there that was so enticing that I took that path.
So now the other pieces, how many layers of paper have each? Or every piece is different?
Every piece is different, and sometimes they overlap. Not a lot, just maybe 2. So it's not really thick with the paper. But as I said, there's canvas under here too, which is exposed in some of them. And I think you can kind of see where I've got right into it. This is a very intimate piece because you can see how close I get into it, whereas this piece is a little more distant. looks like you're viewing from afar, and this one is up close. It's like the human body, it's like skin in a bit. And when I finish them, I don't normally varnish my work. I rub this with layers and layers of oil. So it was like putting something on skin almost. So it's like, hence the name skin.
So what do you think is how long it takes to dry it to be?
It takes a long time to dry because it's oil.
Okay.
But it's, and that's what I enjoy because I can manipulate it still wet. So if I want to do wet on wet, it works really well to convey my idea. The one in the larger piece in the other room was not made the same way. It's brand new, and it was the start of something new, I think.
So do you want to say something?
Yeah.
So what's different from the other ones?
It is, it's softer. I haven't worn it out as much. I've left it as is, so it feels like the start of a new series, although it's the tail end of the series. It's still the same idea, but it feels quite different than the other pieces I've done in this series.
So when this happened, for example, in the series, the next generation, or you will say of the same series, you still name the series the same, or
it's still in my mind, but as you work through an idea, it involves changes. And I find that as I'm working, I will have a new idea, even when I'm working on an old idea. So I will jump to the new series novel, and then I've got a new series.
So in this one also I noticed that the colors are quite the colors that you use, the palette is quite different from the others. It's more bright, more
It's
on the
brighter,
center.
it's not as dark. Like that is a very dark piece. And in comparison,
Yeah.
I always work from the dark. I work from black all the time because I do use colors, but I haven't. Yeah, this is really bright and clean. It's not muddied at all, so
So
it's a little bit different. But I like working large, but it takes a while to work that big. So.
okay.